back to Friday film reviews on a Saturday. Yeah, I kind of lost a whole day. I really thought that it was Thursday, yesterday, which was Friday. My fiancée Connie, she was meeting someone today, which is Saturday, and she said, "Oh well, I'm meeting that person tomorrow." And I was like, "I thought you were meeting him on Saturday." She said, "It is Saturday tomorrow." I was like, "No, it isn't." And I don't know what happened. You know, not moving back here, but coming back here after visiting the UK. So somewhere along the way, I lost a day, and so I'm filming this late. I'm putting it up late, but who cares? You know, I'm gonna still call it Friday Film Reviews. And also, I wouldn't have been able to film it yesterday on Friday because I was absolutely ravaged by my allergies, which is still affecting me right now. Yeah, my eye looks a bit watery there. It's just, now, after that almost minute-long ramble session at the beginning, let's crack on with the last films I watched of 2013 and the first few films I watched of 2014. Cracking on right with it, went to the cinema with my friend Adam to see The Secret Life of Walter Mitty. This was a great film. I really enjoyed it. Commercial, yes. Family friendly, yes. Kind of by the numbers, yes. It's a lot of it is kind of it's retreads of things that we're familiar with, things that we kind of have grown to expect in films like this. You know, Forrest Gump, that kind of, you know, of the ilk of a film like Forrest Gump, I think. Walter Mitty, played by Ben Stiller, fairly unremarkable man who's done fairly unremarkable things in his life, and he daydreams and he zones out and he goes into these, you know, these wild imaginative flights of fancy where he kind of imagines himself being something more than he is, which is a photo processor at Life magazine, which is kind of a takeoff on Time magazine. And this new company's come in, they've taken over the magazine, they're going to make it an online magazine. That's my cat going in the litter tray. I just put her out to go to the toilet and she comes in to use the litter tray. This is where I imagine myself, much like Walter Mitty, strangling my cat to death. Of course, I'd never do that. But Walter, you know, he likes this girl in work and he tries to kind of connect with her using this dating site, but it's not really working out for him. And the story of the movie is that this big photographer, this real artsy kind of photographer who doesn't even come to the magazine, he sends his photos to Walter. He processes them and everything. They've had a good working relationship through the years. The film opens. Walter's received a nice kind of you know, embossed wallet from him. You know, so they have a good relationship together because he gets his photos where they need to be in the magazine. And that I forget what the guy's name's called, but it's played by Sean Penn very briefly in the film. But he's off somewhere. They don't know where he is, and there's one of the photos in the negative are missing, and it's the one that he says is the quintessence of life, and you know, like his favourite photograph that he's taken, and so Walter's got to try and find this photograph because these new guys are coming in to take over Life magazine. They want this photograph. Where's number 25? And so Walter kind of goes on this epic adventure to track down Sean Penn's character and to find out where the missing photograph has gone. And it's all about that. And you know, at times you're thinking, what's real, what's not? You know, I wasn't sure whether it was going to be a full movie of imaginative, you know, fantasies or not. But you know, he did actually go on some of these journeys, and I really liked the way it was shot. I liked the way it was filmed. I thought some of the direction was really, really good. The music was great, really added a lot to it. There's a great bit with Space Oddity that I thought was fantastic. The cinematography when Walter goes out to these European countries, I thought was just absolutely beautiful. It felt towards the end, it was kind of like, this does actually kind of feel like a 2-hour Kodak commercial. It was almost a bit too well, kind of, I don't know, the light shining through and the sunset and everything, but overall I thought this movie was great. The ending was really, really satisfying, and you know, it comes together in a bit of a kind of too neat of a way, I think, but sometimes, you know, you have to just enjoy those films, you know, and not kind of be so cynical and critical and think, you know, blah 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 blah. I really, really just enjoyed myself and thought it was a great movie. There's one bit in it I thought, you know, that they probably should have not tried to trick us with that. You know, it was a minor point of the film, so it didn't really impact it that much. But overall, I thought Secret Life of Walter Mitty was fantastic. Can't wait to watch it again. Highly recommend other people watch it. Next was Out of the Furnace, another film from 2013. I'm still trying to watch as many as I can. This stars Christian Bale. That's a great cast. You got Christian Bale, Casey Affleck, who is fast becoming one of my favourite actors now. He was brilliant in Eight and Then Body Saints, also from last year, 2013. I've got to keep remembering now that 2013 was last year. He was great in Eight and Then Body Saints, and he was brilliant in this, Out of the Furnace. Casey Affleck and Christian Bale play brothers, and you know, Casey Affleck, he's kind of been to Iraq and stuff, young soldier, and he's kind of getting into kind of the underworld of underground fighting, stuff like that, and he's kind of mentored by Willem Dafoe, who is kind of one of the kind of you know, antagonists of the film, but it changes later on when we have Woody Harrelson as the major antagonist of the film, and he's just brilliant in this film. I love Woody Harrelson anyway, but he's really good in this. We got Zoe Saldana as Christian Bale's girlfriend. As the movie opens, Forrest Whitaker comes in later on in the film in a very important role. The cast was brilliant. The cast was really great, and Christian Bale anchors it all. He is just a hell of an actor. I mean, you know, I love the Batman films. That's got nothing to do with my appreciation of him as an actor. I thought he was good in those films, but it's really films like The Machinist. It's films like this that really kind of, in a way, I could see people kind of watching this out of the furnace and not being too wowed by it. But I really was appreciated the more subtle things that he did in the film. Especially a scene between him and Zoe Saldana in maybe the middle of the film, I thought was just beautifully done and just really kind of just brilliant acting, and it just goes to show, you know, not to knock him or anything, but you know, he can give great performances without having to kind of change his body so much. Although I do appreciate when he does that too, and obviously, you know, he's very method, but you know, he was just, you know, himself here. He hadn't lost a lot of weight, he hadn't gained a lot of weight. He hadn't gained a lot of weight, mate. No, he hadn't gained a lot of weight, so you know, for me it was all about just the acting. And I thought it was great, and then his relationship with Casey Affleck, his brother, was great. And it's just, I don't know, everything about this film, I was just really drawn into it. It's quite slow, you know, and the story builds up, and it gets quite tense, very tense towards the end. And it's a thriller, I would say. I don't want to give away hardly anything about the plot because there's a few twists and turns, you know, nothing like Saw level, but there's a few twists and turns. I had no idea what was going on, what the film was about when I first watched it. And I just surrendered myself to what it was going to be, and what it was for me one of the best films of the year. And I'm still going to stand by my initial rating of this when I watched it, a 10 out of 10. I don't think it's a 10 out of 10 film. I think it's a 7 to maybe 8 out of 10 film. But for me, everything, it's just my personal taste. It was a 10. Just everything about it worked for me, and the ending of the film was just really. It wasn't powerful. I don't know if it was powerful. It's something I'd never seen before, and something that was different and still kind of effective, and I really liked it. Next, The World's End. I watched this with my mum after I got the Blu-ray over Christmas. Still as great as it was the first 2 times I saw it. 10 out of 10 again. Brilliant film. You got to see The World's End if you haven't seen it. The next film I watched was The Burbs, and this is kind of like a ritual me and my mum do every few years. We watch The Burbs. One of our favourite films. You know, she introduced me to it when I was a teenager, and it'll always be our film. You know, we just both love it so much. The Burbs is a comedy from 1988, I believe, the year I was born, actually. Tom Hanks plays a guy who lives in this kind of suburb in you know, in America. It's actually the same street they shot all of Desperate Housewives on, so it's like it's that street, you know. And so it's this, you know, perfect lawns on some of them and stuff, and there's this house which is a bit derelict and in a state of disarray, and this new family has moved in. You know, they've been there about a month. They're called the Klopeks. No one's seen them. Tom Hanks and his wife, played by Carrie Fisher, you know, they live next door to the Klopeks. Across the street we have Corey Feldman. I think his name's Ricky Butler in the film. Corey Feldman at the height of his teenage kind of fame, I guess. And then next to him is Bruce Dern, you know, who this year or last year was getting rave reviews for Nebraska. This is one of his best comedy roles. He's kind of this ex-army guy who's kind of just brilliant, and he's got this like perfect blonde bimbo wife. And then opposite, or next to Tom Hanks on the other side, is a guy called Art, who is a really funny actor. I think he's fantastic, and he just didn't really seem to make much of an impact in the movie business at all, which is a shame. I remember he's in Groundhog Day as a drunk briefly. He's been in a few other things, and I always go, oh, it's that guy from The Burbs. He feels like he's a bit of a John Candy kind of actor, but just never really cracked it, you know, which is a shame. But he's the highlight of the film. He's just brilliant. As Tom Hanks' is kind of best buddy, who's always kind of interfering and stuff. And anyway, there's an old guy on the other end of the street. What's his name? Walter. and he's got this nice little poodle. You know, he's a bit of a queen, you know, an old man with a nice lawn and flowers and everything. Walter goes missing. Now this is it's basically like a spotlight on people who live on a small street where everyone knows each other, and the gossip that goes on, and they're thinking that the Klopeks have something to do with Walter's disappearance, and these strange noises are coming from the Klopeks' house at night, and these weird things are happening, and it is admittedly very odd, and apparently they've been seen digging in their garden at night, and so all this kind of suspicion and stuff keeps building and building, and there's comedic elements to it. It's very much a kind of spoof and a satire on that kind of life, American life, that kind of 50s kind of perfect Americana kind of thing. But also it's just very, very funny. One of my favourite comedies of all time. Tom Hanks is at his brilliant best in this. I mean, I know he's gone on to do some great dramatic roles, but for me, this is one of my favourite Tom Hanks films ever. It probably is my favourite Tom Hanks film ever, definitely. Well, I really like You've Got Mail. It's one of my favourite Tom Hanks films, but it's my favourite Tom Hanks comedy by far. Yeah, what else can I say about this? But just go see it if you haven't seen it. Just some of the gags, and I don't want to spoil anything for anyone who hasn't seen it. There's just some really, really funny stuff in this movie. Always makes me laugh every time I watch it. I've been praying for a Blu-ray release, and apparently Arrow Video are releasing it this year, which I could cry. I'm so happy about that, because Arrow are going to give it the treatment it deserves. We're going to have nice cover art. We're going to get hopefully special features, actual special features for the Burbs, which we've never had. So I can't wait. I really can't wait for that. But otherwise, the Burbs, just a brilliant film. Now, the same day, I think. Yeah, the same day. No, it was the next day. Me and my mum watched Seven Samurai from 1954. This is one of my all-time favourite films. I've talked about it before. I've reviewed it on this channel. I've talked about the Blu-ray on this channel. I talked about it in my Akira Kurosawa Appreciation Night challenge, YouTube participation thingy that I did in 2012 now. You can still check that out on my channel. One of my all-time favourite films by the master Akira Kurosawa, probably the most popular or well-known Japanese film of all time, I would say, and definitely the most popular and well-known samurai film of all time. And it is a classic. And at the beginning of this year, I got Spartacus for Christmas, last Christmas, and me and my mum watched that. It was a classic old film. She likes her old films, like Ben-Hur, Spartacus and stuff. So we watched that. It was like three plus hours, and really enjoyed watching that together. And then we watched The Magnificent Seven, because I said, The Magnificent Seven is a remake of one of my favourite films, Seven Samurai. So we watched that. And it's not as long as Seven Samurai, it's about 2.5 hours I think. So we watched The Magnificent Seven. I'd never seen it. My mum loved it. The whole time I was like, oh, that's like that guy, and I was pointing out all the things that were similar with Seven Samurai, with it being a remake. And so I said to her, why don't we watch Seven Samurai, and you can see the differences, and blah blah blah. So okay, so we watched another long film together, and the whole time my mum was like, oh, it's like the Yul Brynner character, oh, it's like the James Coburn character. So that was kind of funny. But what can I say about Seven Samurai? If you've got 3.5 hours that you can devote to watching a film, and paying attention to it, you should definitely give Seven Samurai a shot. It's just one of the best made films I've ever seen. The editing, particularly for 1954, is just phenomenal. The framing, cinematography, the music, the acting. The acting can almost be a bit too over the top, particularly Toshiro Mifune's character, Kikuchiyo. But he kind of goes to he dances a fine line between being too over the top, but being over the top enough for it to work. And I think he makes it work. Because there are people like that in the world, and he pulls that off brilliantly, I think. But there's just some great actors in this movie, and great characters, performances, and direction from Kurosawa. It's just it's an absolute classic, an absolute epic, and I highly recommend anyone to watch it. And it was brilliant watching it again on Blu-ray. I mean, Seven Samurai on Blu-ray is just fantastic. Then I watched a movie on my way back here on the Megabus Gold. Ooh, Megabus Gold, which is a very fancy knot. It was okay. I'm not going to review Megabus Gold, so we'll just leave it at that. But there was a plug on there so I could watch a film on my laptop, and I chose to watch Gimme the Loot, another film from 2013. This I watched purely on the basis that James Merchant included it in his top 10 films 2013. Excuse me. Never heard of it before, so I gave it a shot. And I really, really enjoyed it. Quite a short film, just kind of about these two teenagers in New York City. I think it's over one day, just kind of hustling and trying to do this and do that, and you know, it was really enjoyable and authentic. Or it felt like that's what it would be to be to be a teenager in New York. It felt like it was authentic, at least. I don't know from experience, but it felt authentic. It was enjoyable. Really good little film. I won't go into too much more detail than that. And then the final film I watched of 2013 was American Hustle. And I have to say, maybe overrated, maybe overhyped it a little bit too much. And the reason I say this is because people are saying it's like, oh, the best film of the year, you know, absolutely, you know, masterpiece, you know, out Scorsese's Martin Scorsese. Although in fairness, some people have also said it's very derivative of Martin Scorsese. I thought it was a brilliant film. I absolutely loved it, but I wouldn't say that it's like a 10 out of 10 masterpiece like some other people have said. I would give it a strong 9 out of 10. Christian Bale is fantastic in this. Jennifer Lawrence is very good in a supporting role. Amy Adams is really good in this. I don't usually love her, you know, I think she's a good actress. I don't think she's as amazing as people make out, but I thought she was very good in this movie. Jeremy Renner was great in this. You know, the whole cast is great. Who else have we got? There's someone else. Bradley Cooper, who's become a revelation of the past couple of years. He's truly transformed from the year I saw him in He's Just Not That Into You, you know, and he was just the typical romantic comedy or goofball comedy go-to guy. Now he's this big, dramatic, serious actor, and I couldn't be happier for the guy because I think he's great. Also a very cool cameo from a great actor, which is interesting and fun. I just really enjoyed the story, the fact that it was true as well. It was presented well, it was cool, it was just fun. Connie got very bored watching it, but I wasn't bored for a second, and I thought it was a fantastic film. Definitely, I don't know, worth the wait because I've been looking forward to it, but not as absolutely fantastic, brilliant masterpiece as some people have said. That's all I'm saying. Moving on, I want to kind of quickly wrap this up in 20 minutes. There are 3 more films I watched in 2014, so we're now crossing over to 2014. The first film of the year I watched was Rush. Oh god, how am I going to keep this short? I might do a separate review for this film because there's so much I want to talk about, but for me Rush is one of the best films of 2013, definitely. And I feel like I've said that about a lot of films, so my top 20 list, or top 30 list, whatever it's going to be, is going to be huge. I've got a lot to talk about. Rush for me was just absolutely fantastic. Where do I even start? You got Chris Hemsworth playing James Hunt, you know, the real life Formula 1 driver from the 70s. We have Daniel Bruhl playing Niki Lauda, the Austrian F1 driver from the 70s and 80s. And it's basically about their rivalry, James Hunt and Niki Lauda's rivalry on the on the racetrack and off it. And James Hunt is kind of, you know, womanizer, does drinks, he takes drugs, you know, he's very much playboy kind of lifestyle. Niki Lauda, very serious, very straightforward, all about the racing and the discipline. Whereas James Hunt's a bit more free, a bit more of a free spirit and kind of a joker and you know, the life of the party. And so it's about the contrast between the two characters and also their careers and as they kind of are coming up together, leading to the 1976 Formula 1 season. It's all about that and all the races and all the twists and turns that happened with the with that season and all the races. I knew nothing about their rivalry, I knew nothing about the people beforehand. I've since looked it up on YouTube and watched interviews with both to see how good that, you know, Chris Hemsworth and Daniel Bruhl portrayed the characters. I've got to say they both did a fucking standout job, particularly Daniel Bruhl. His accent is just, it sounds exactly like Niki Lauda. It's brilliant. He has a little teeth kind of prosthetic in to get the overbite that Niki Lauda has, and I just thought the production design was fantastic from recreating the past on that level. I thought the music by Hans Zimmer was absolutely incredible. It added so much to the movie. I was just like, it's like a whole other character of the film, a main character of the film. The soundtrack, I just absolutely adored the soundtrack. One of my favourite soundtracks in a long time. Again, the attention to detail, the direction by Ron Howard was fantastic, superb. And again, for me, probably the final minute of the film is what really nailed it in as just a 10 out of 10 film for me. It was just so moving and emotional, and it was a different take on the traditional and I guess you could almost say predictable ending of a film that is about true life events, where, you know, the film ends and then we get a little kind of picture of, you know, here's what he really looked like and here's what happened afterwards and here's what he's doing now. And he kind of took that and kind of drove it into the movie and did it in a different way that really gave the film a massive emotional punch to end on. And I just thought, oh, I've watched the ending about 4 times. It's just absolutely fantastic. Rush, you got to see it. Next, All Is Lost, another 2013 film. Robert Redford been making waves on the the festival circuit last year, and now it was recently released in the cinema, and it's brilliant. It's basically Robert Redford is an unnamed man who is out on, I think, the Indian Ocean on his on his sailboat, and it crashes into this floating container out in the ocean, and he's got a hole in his boat, so you've got to try and fix it, and then he's up against the elements, and then he's got to survive. And it's, I think, about a 100-minute movie, and there's probably about, I don't know, 10 lines of dialogue, something like that. It's almost a silent movie, but his performance was great, subtle, engrossing, and I thought he did a fantastic job. And I think they also did a fantastic job with how it looked, because it was shot on the stage, and it really does look like it was shot at sea a lot of the time. So I think very subtle visual effects were used, along with the practical effects, obviously, on shooting on a stage. I believe they shot it on the same tank stage that Titanic was filmed on. So yeah, it had its uses. I highly recommend All Is Lost. I wouldn't give it quite a 10 out of 10. There's a few things about it. A couple of little details I thought a bit too unrealistic for me, took me out of it a little bit, but otherwise a fantastic movie. And then finally, the final film of this week of reviews is La Grande Bellezza, I think is how you pronounce it. The Great Beauty, an Italian film. I forget the director's name, unfortunately, but again, 2013 film, and this is just an absolute joy. 10 out of 10 before we go anywhere. I don't think I'd watch it as much as, say, Rush or The World's End or even Out of the Furnace, other films from 2013 that I've given a 10. But I just have to. I have to give it a 10 because it is just such an achievement, I think, in everything. Well, not everything, I don't know. I just thought the film looked amazing. The cinematography was superb. The way the camera moves was so fluid, but it made everything seem so much more epic. It's about this 65-year-old man called Jep Gambardella, I think, but Jep definitely. And Jep, 65, just had his 65th birthday party. It's massive, you see him, he's got this cigar in his mouth, he's drinking, he's smiling, he's dancing, he's living the high life. He is this proper socialite of Rome, where the film is set. He's got this balcony apartment overlooking, right next to the Colosseum. Couldn't be better for this guy. He wrote a great novel in his early 20s, and he hasn't written another novel since. He's kind of coasted on doing kind of journalism, gossip journalism, that kind of thing, and it's about him kind of re-evaluating things in his life, wandering around Rome, looking at all these beautiful things, the history of the place, interacting with all these different colourful characters who, a lot of them we don't even get formally introduced to. They're just kind of, they're there, they serve their purpose, and then later on they kind of come back into it in a way that you're not expecting, and you got to kind of keep track. But the dialogue, I think, is fantastic. I love the way the Italian language sounds. It sounds so poetic and makes everything sound so much more better than it is, I think. Some great characters in there. There's this really interesting character towards the end, which I was really captivating, and it dealt with the subject matter I'm not that interested in, and not really that interested in seeing anything about it either, but it kind of worked, and I was intrigued and engrossed, and there was a moment in it where it was kind of grotesque but beautiful at the same time, and there was a lot of beautiful shots in the film, a lot of beautiful moments, and then again, conversely, ugly moments and interesting moments, and it's just a movie filled with these fantastic moments. And I thought the actor, I think it's Tony Servillo, something like that, he was brilliant as Jep, absolutely just fantastic. He's kind of magnetic, charismatic, but yet conveyed this kind of lifelessness of someone who really, just is looking for something more, I think, and can't really find it, and so immerses himself in all this pointless bullshit. There's a great scene where he's sitting down with all of his kind of posh friends, and this one woman's going on about how, oh, my phone's ringing. I'll cut back. Yeah, as I was saying, there's this woman. She's like, oh, I've made so much sacrifices. I have kids and all this, and then she's being a bitch and a bitch and a bitch, and then Jep just says, she completely dresses her down, spends about 2 minutes just going about everything that's wrong with her life, and it's just like really funny, really harsh, and excuse me, yeah, just I enjoyed that bit for sure. And there's just so much to talk about with that film. Again, I might have to maybe do a review of it in full. I don't know, I'm not sure. But as it stands for me, another one of the best films of 2013 by far, La Grande Bellezza. Yeah, so that rounds up Friday film reviews. On Saturday this time, I'll definitely make it before, and I'll have it out on time for next week on Friday. Thank you for watching. Let me know if you've seen any of these films, and I'll see you next time.
He says he's really cool, but I think he's a tool. Even though I'm sure he's a quite nice guy, really. He's a quite nice guy, really.